back to my channel. I'm Deziel and today I'm starting with you the pencil skirt with the slit in the back and the lining. Now today we're going to go right away at the end, the last style I have in my booklet. Don't worry, we'll come back for some more style, but today I want to show you how to make the pencil skirt, so narrower at the bottom with a walking pleat in the back, and also it's a line skirt. And this is going to allow me to answer a question about the lining and the walking pleat. Now before to make the actual pattern, I want you to look at a real garment, finished garment, so you'll see what we'll be doing on the pattern. First of all, you could see right away that the lining is usually shorter than the self fabric. That's to make sure that from the outside you never see the lining coming out. The second thing you can notice in most of the lining is that the dart are just fold like pleat. You use the same information except you don't put the punch hole and you just fold it. You could press your dart, but see, it's not sewn. So it gives you a little more movement to the lining. And you know, the lining is not a strong fabric, so it's a good thing to have little ease. Finally, there's another detail here that the skirt has, and that's what we're doing also. This is a shorter skirt, but it's the same detail. We have the walking pleat, and you could see right away that my lining at the center back, because the pleat is at the center back, has an excess in the length. Here it's almost 2 centimeters, 3/4 of an inch, but I will show you how to elongate only the center back, a minimum of 5 millimeters or 1/4 inch. And this is to make sure that there's not going to be no pulling when you wear your skirt because the lining is attached at the slit. Finally, the last detail I want you to look at is the lining. Where does it start at? Here it's the center back. If you look at the outside, you could see that my fabric or self fabric goes all the way to here is the center back to the center back. But the same area inside, the lining is starting a little further. So it's like moving the seam instead of having the lining all the way to the zipper, and when you open it catch into the zipper. Here we push the seam, and to do that we put different seam allowance on the lining and on the self. We put a wider one on the self and a smaller one for the lining. For today's style, I'm going to trace right away the back and the front, but my plan is going to become my pattern for the self. So make sure you have enough room between your back and your front block to put your seam allowance. In today's style, I have a side opening and I will need 2 centimeter seam allowance for both pieces. Just make sure you have enough and trace all around. Just like I said before, this layer of paper is going to become my self fabric pattern piece. In the self fabric, we're keeping the dart as it is. So I'm going to do dotted line for my dart back and front. And I'm going to put my punch hole 1 centimeter up or 3/8 of an inch up on the center line. Now the next thing that is on all the pieces is the adjustment that we want to do at the bottom to make it a pencil skirt. The measurement that I learned when I was at school, and it does work and I'm still using it. I even checked many times on skirt in the market and it's still the same. The measurement is to find the knee level, and at the knee level you go in 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch. The idea is to make it tighter, yes, but still to be able to walk easily with your skirt. The knee level is usually at about 60 centimeter from the waist down, and you do measure the length of a skirt at the center back. So at the center back, 60 down, this is your knee level. If you do have my block have 70 centimeter, so you could just go up 10 centimeter from the bottom. So I could do it right away with my ruler. I'm gonna go up 10 centimeter or 4 inches, and I'm going to go in 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to make a little dot. Next thing is on the side seam. If you don't want to create a point on the side seam, I suggest that you keep a little distance, like 2 or 3 centimeter, 3/4 of an inch, straight line, original line. Then from that mark, then you could go trace the bottom part narrower, touching the reference that you have. Before I forget, we're right away going to put the notch for the zipper. On that style, I put it on the side seam. So right away, I'm going to measure my zipper 18 centimeter or 7 inch and 1/8 on the side seam, on both side seam. Now I'm going to right away put my information, starting with the grain line parallel to center front and another grain line parallel to my center back. Now the information for my front, this is style 114. It's going to be cut one time on the fold of the fabric in the main fabric. Now for the back, still 114. It's going to be cut one pair in the self fabric. Now in the back, we're going to trace the walking pleat. Now, at which level should you start the pleat? I would say from the waist down on the center back, maybe 35, the highest you could go, 35, 40 centimeter, or maybe 15, 16 inch from the waist. Now, after you find which level you're going to start the pleat, you're going to trace this excess parallel to your center back. Here you could see me placing my ruler because I like to use the width of my ruler. So 5 cm or 2 inches, and you're going to trace parallel to your center back. At the bottom, you could just continue the line, the bottom line, straight like that. Now about the top part, it's a matter of style. You could do it straight or do an angle, and it doesn't have to be 45-degree or 30-degree angle. It's up to you. It's just a matter of style. But if you do have a top stitch outside, it's going to follow exactly the angle that you gave. Now, a last information we have to put on the back pattern for the pleat. It's to indicate where you're going to end your seam on the back. Usually, we want to sew until more or less 2 centimeter lower than the pleat for more security. So 2 centimeter lower down or 3/4 of an inch. And the punch hole is going to be 3 millimeter inside and 1 centimeter up. In inch, it would be 1/8 in and 3/8 up. Now we could put the seam allowance, the normal seam allowance at the center back and at both waist, back and front. On the side seam, because we have the opening, we'll put 2 centimeter seam allowance or 3/4 of an inch. And as you remember, the center front is on fold. At the M, we put a normal M, so maybe 4 centimeter. Now I'm going to ask you to separate your back and your front. So cut in the middle and also cut directly on the M line value. Now the reason why I ask you to separate your piece and cut on the hemline, it's because we have the side seam that's going in, so you're going to have a jog at the bottom. So before cutting all around, you're going to fold on both lines, front and back, right on the final length. And then for both back and front, now you could cut all around as usual. Now the notches for the front piece. We first have the half notch at the center front. We have the 2 notches for the dart. We have notch at the waist and at the bottom to indicate the unusual seam allowance. Finally, we have on the side seam a notch for the end of the zipper, 18 centimeter or 7 inch and 1/8. And you have the basic notch at the hip. Finally, you have the hem notch on the side seam only. Now the notches on the back pattern piece, you have first the notch for the dart, then you have the notch at the waist and at the bottom for the unusual seam allowance of the side seam. You have the notch for the end of the zipper on the side seam also, and you have the normal or the regular hip notch. Then if we move at the bottom, you're going to have notch to indicate the hem, but this time it's on both sides of the pattern. And you're going to have a notch at the bottom right at the center back line on the bottom line. And finally, since it's a back piece and we don't have a double notch anywhere yet, I'm going to ask you to put a double notch on your center back, somewhere on the center back. That's it, your pencil skirt with the slit in the back is finished. But if you do want to learn how to make the lining for this skirt, you come back in my next video. I show you how to do those 3 lining pieces. That's it for today. I hope you enjoy, and don't forget to come back for the second part of that skirt. We'll do all the lining piece. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time.